Welcome everyone. I'm excited to welcome you to today's presentation. Today, we'll be exploring a topic from continuous learning development. This is the cover slide, so I just want to give you a quick overview of what's to come. We'll be discussing key concepts, strategies, and insights to help you grow and develop professionally. Let's dive in and get started. Let's look at the different schools of thought regarding wiping over socks and footwear. Malaki emphasizes that you should wipe the top of the socks and commendably the sole as well, but this is only permitted if you're wearing leather socks. Shafi's approach is a bit broader. They allow wiping both the top and the sole of the socks. If any part of the foot is exposed, washing the feet is necessary, but you don't need to repeat the wudu afterward. They also permit wiping over leather socks, thick wool socks, and even multiple layers of rags, giving more flexibility in different situations. Hanafi, on the other hand, only allows wiping over the external part of the socks. Importantly, they specify that only leather socks are permissible for wiping. Finally, Ahmed's view is quite specific. He allows wiping over leather socks and any similar thick material, as long as the socks are worn to cover the ankles. The wiping should be over the top of the socks, not the bottom, and applies specifically when wiping over Khuff, which are the thick leather socks. Understanding these differences helps us see how each school approaches the practice, ensuring we follow the correct method based on our tradition. Now, let's talk about the timing and conditions for wiping over the Khuff. Malaki states that wiping is not limited by time and can be wiped unless the Khuff is removed or if a major impurity occurs. Shafi and Hanafi agree that wiping is limited by time, with a duration of 1 day for residents and 3 days for travelers. Ahmed also mentions that residents can wipe for only 1 day, while travelers have up to 3 days. The key takeaway here is that the duration of wiping over the Khuff depends on your status, whether you're a resident or a traveler, and is generally limited by time, unless you take the Khuff off or encounter a major impurity. Understanding these differences helps us follow the proper procedures for maintaining purity during travel or residence. Today, I want to highlight a narration by Khuzaimah bin Thabit, which is quite significant. He was asked about wiping over the Khuff, which are the leather socks or footwear worn during ablution. The Prophet's response was clear and practical. He said, 3 days for the traveler and 1 day for the resident. This statement is recorded in Tirmidhi with a Hasan authenticity rating. What this tells us is that there is evidence supporting the permissibility and the guidelines for wiping over the Khuff. Specifically, it provides a clear distinction based on whether a person is traveling or staying. The traveler is allowed to wipe for up to 3 days, while the resident, who is not traveling, can wipe for up to 1 day. This is a key point because it shows the flexibility within Islamic law related to cleanliness and ease of worship. It also emphasizes the importance of knowing these rules to maintain proper worship and avoid mistakes. Connecting this to our overall theme, which is about understanding the evidences behind our practices, this narration underscores the importance of relying on authentic sources for rulings. It also highlights how practical and considerate Islamic teachings are, especially in accommodating different circumstances like travel and residence. Let's take a closer look at the different scholarly opinions regarding the removal of Khuff and its impact on purification and prayer. Malaki scholars say that if the Khuff are removed and the feet are washed, the purification remains valid. However, if the feet are not washed after removing the Khuff, then the prayer would be invalid. Similarly, Shafi scholars hold the same view. Removing the Khuff and washing the feet preserves the purification, but neglecting to wash the feet would invalidate the prayer. Hanafi scholars also agree that once the Khuff are removed and the feet are washed, the state of purification is maintained. Yet, if the feet are not washed after removal, the prayer becomes invalid. Now, Ahmed's perspective adds an interesting nuance. He suggests that simply taking off the Khuff does not necessarily invalidate the purification. He acknowledges that there is no definitive proof that removing the Khuff invalidates it, although some scholars believe it might. So the key takeaway here is that most scholars agree that washing the feet after removing the khuff is crucial for maintaining purification, especially regarding the validity of prayer. But there is some scholarly difference, particularly with Ahmed, about whether removing the khuff alone invalidates purification or not. This discussion connects back to our overall theme of understanding the conditions that affect the validity of our acts of worship and how different schools interpret these actions. In this slide, we see a quote that highlights a key point about wiping over the khuff. The person speaking expresses some doubt in his chest about whether it's allowed to wipe over the khuff after certain acts like defecation or urination. He's asking a companion of the PROPHET letter FDFA if the PROPHET letter FDFA ever mentioned anything about that. The companion responds by saying that the PROPHET letter FDFA used to order travelers not to remove their khuff for 3 days and nights, except in cases of sexual impurity. This means that, generally, wiping over the khuff was permitted during travel for up to that period, even if one used the bathroom. However, it's important to note that this ruling does not apply if one becomes sexually impure. This narration from Tirmidhi, classified as Hasan, emphasizes the permissibility of wiping over the khuff during travel under specific conditions. It connects to our overall theme by clarifying the conditions under which wiping over the khuff is valid, highlighting the importance of understanding the proper rulings for ablution and purity in our daily lives.